Welcome back all. Today we're going to be learning about another very interesting 3D portfolio company giving us this time exposure into psychedelics. I'm here with Claire, the CEO of Lophos Holdings, and it's a bioscience company specializing in the cultivation, drug development and research of a cactus called Peyote. Claire, for those that don't know, what is Peyote? I mean, I've just said it's a cactus, but how does it work? Perhaps give us a bird's eye view of your company.
So peyote is a small spineless cactus that grows traditionally in Texas, Mexico, and parts of South America. It contains the psychoactive alkaloid mescaline. And for Lophos, it's really our mission is to further the research around not only peyote as a traditional medicine, but also mescaline as an alkaloid with its own therapeutic potential in the traditional pharmaceutical vein. And so that's really kind of the bird's eye of Lophos.
Yeah. So what's your background and how and why did you get involved in the space in the first place? I think there's an interesting story.
Yeah, so my background, I studied cell and molecular biology in school and then transitioned into industrial biotechnology. And I worked initially for some of the larger pharmaceutical companies in cell culture and manufacturing. And when I moved to Canada, I met my husband and moved to Canada. It was right around the time that cannabis was being legalized.
Mhm.
And you really saw that companies were searching for people who could help them apply that pharmaceutical manufacturing acumen and compliance level into cannabis cultivation. And in the beginning, it was a tough road to walk, but it was really fascinating for me personally to be able to apply the strict pharmaceutical background into a natural medicine. My husband is Indigenous; he's Ojibwe, and during the pandemic, we really saw this global mental health crisis evolving, and we also saw the increase in the space, the psychedelic space, and the interest, as well as the regulatory support, which caused us to kind of look more into, peyote as a potential because we didn't really hear a lot about it.
Mhm.
Peyote in Canada has a long history of indoor cultivation, in large part because it's near impossible to export from the United States into Canada. And so what you've seen is this culture of specimens that are passed down through the generations and cultivated indoors. And from there, my husband and I created Lophos under that exemption that exists in our Controlled Substance Act to really improve upon those methods. In the wild, peyote can take 13 to 30 years to produce a seed, which is really leading to its endangered classification. It experiences overharvesting in the wild, climate change. And so one of the things that I'm really proud that Lophos has done to date is be able to define the protocol, define the indoor cultivation methods that allow peyote to mature in a shorter timeline. And so right now we've gotten it down to 4 years, and we think that we hope to even be able to improve it in the future.
Partly going extinct, and you're sort of helping people, educating people, and showing the growth potentially indoors and a more controlled and speedy, efficient way. Yeah, lovely. I like your point about the lockdowns as well. I think governments didn't realize the long-term impacts it would have on people, and especially mental health. I think we're now seeing the sort of residue of that, and there's a need, definitely.
Yeah. I think, there was a reactionary period where there wasn't a lot of planning, and we've seen this period where, it's a global event, where it's a traumatic event where many people have experienced this trauma, and you're going to look for therapists that are overbooked, and many are finding very long wait times to even, to be able to seek that path. And then you're looking at the traditional pharmaceuticals. Many are finding that the efficacy rates are low and that it's not helping with their depression, and being able to further the research into an area that traditionally has so much history and is used consistently with successful, colloquial successful results. It's very exciting to be able to kind of move that into the next transition in a more pharmaceutical kind of structure where we can further the research and then also kind of further the studies around these different indications. And so that's kind of the pathway that we're headed on.
Yeah, I have a family member that's struggled with mental health and with eating disorders, and the alternatives are extremely expensive, whereas this is a different option for those people. So how are you able to deal with a substance that's illegal in most countries? What states and provinces do you deliver in?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm really sorry to hear about your family member, and I hope that they're able to find the pathway that works for them to find that healing. I do think it's possible. When you look at kind of the marketplace for Lophos, it starts in Canada under our exemption to the Controlled Substance Act, which allows us to grow, sell, and consume within, all the provinces or territories of Canada. But then if globally, you look at that snapshot, there are pockets where peyote it has some legality, if not all legality. So like places like Thailand, Ukraine, even the UK has some, for
Right.
ornamental purposes, things like that.
Mhm.
We hope to see that expand in the future. Do you think that the work that Lophos is doing is part of that kind of expansion? We also see that the work that we're doing and being able to provide the traditional medicine, well, the revenues from that will feed back into our ability to further the pharmaceutical pathway for mescaline or another proprietary molecule that comes from our research. So that's an exciting aspect, I think, as well.
Yeah, that leads nicely on to the next question, which is sort of other substances and drugs you have a dealer's license for or are in development.
Yeah, so our site, we really aim to make our site as multifunctional as possible, to make us as dynamic as possible, and to allow us to really bring our research in-house. So our site has 6,000 square feet of cultivation space and about 3,000 square feet that's covered under our controlled substance dealer's license. And that license allows us to produce some of the psychedelic molecules like mescaline, psilocin, psilocybin, which traditionally have been very hard for researchers to access. There's been very few people that or companies that were actually manufacturing these substances for research or for other licensed entities, academic institutions. And so we're very excited to be able to do that in our lab. But then also our CSDL allows us to handle some of the other psychedelic molecules, distribution, import, export. We can deliver to the SAP patients in Canada. That's the Special Access Program. And so some of those molecules would be things like some of the other psychedelic molecules. So LSD, MDMA, ketamine, DMT. And then we have that ability to add other molecules as needed, but we've really kind of identified those as the potential for other interests and then to our own interest as well.
So what are you treating? What are the applications of all these different products?
So traditionally, you see peyote used in ceremony in indigenous communities for, mental health disorders, addiction, just any type of healing, depression that you're, that mental capacity is impacted by. And so I really am looking forward to being able to further the clinical studies and clinical research in that vein. But then some of the other things that really make me excited are in pockets in Mexico, you actually see poultice or gels being created with peyote for pain, which I find very fascinating. And so I'm looking forward to being able to further kind of the research in Canada in that vein once we're able to. Those type of applications would require additional regulatory guidance from Health
Yeah,
Canada. But
yeah.
it's an exciting thing that I'm looking forward to doing.
Linking directly to that, what are the effects and risks for, people? I mean, I think just before we started this, you were talking about microdoses and
So when you look at psychedelics, there's the traditional, or what I think a lot of people think of when they think of taking a psychedelic, which is that kind of macro dose where you're having a full psychedelic experience. And I think, and when you're going to take peyote, it's very important to be an informed consumer, and Lophos will play a very big part in informing the consumer, not only through our product release specifications, our testings for safety and alkaloid content, but also just in the risk. And so if you have a family history of heart disease or mental illness, it's really important to caution before jumping into a macro dose of a psychedelic. I think any healthcare professional would caution you on that.
Mhm.
Um, but then when we look at something like a micro dose, that's where I think peyote as a traditional medicine really stands out. The the onset duration of peyote is something that you see is very extended compared to mushrooms, for example, or psilocybin. We have a metabolism time span of 12 to 24 hours. And so when you take a microdose, I really see a lot of potential. It hasn't been studied, so I have to caution this, but I do see a lot of potential in the microdose, and the having access to the healing benefits or the serotonin benefits of the psychedelic alkaloids, without having that full psychedelic experience.
Yeah.
So I think peyote actually has a very unique role there, as a traditional medicine, and being able to microdose.
Yeah, so perhaps unlike other alternatives, there'll be a microdose version that doesn't have the full experience. Whereas if you have that dose in other substances, it will be quite extreme still.
Exactly. I mean, recently, through our workings with Health Canada and getting our site licensed and, going public, Health Canada actually added Lophofora williamsi peyote to the natural health product ingredient database, which opens it for natural health product formulation. And so I really see and when you look at peyote as a plant, there's 50 alkaloids that we know of that are in this plant, which are, basically an active ingredient. Some of the other psychedelics have one, there's not, some have a few, but nothing approaches peyote. And so when the potential for a natural health product formulation is there as well, in addition to the macrodose, microdose, something that's non-psychedelic, but uses the benefit of the alkaloids present in peyote, it's a very interesting opportunity. And I think that Lophos is in a very interesting place. We're the only ones in the world that are growing peyote to a pharmaceutical standard, in accordance to the pharmacopoeia for herbal medicines. And so I think that is an important distinction for Lophos as well, in that pathway.
Yeah. So then 3D, they made an investment in a share swap recently, and it seems like a very interesting strategic partnership taking place. How do they support beyond just investing? And then where do you see this partnership going into the sort of future?
So 3D, we're so excited to have 3D on board. They're known for investing in innovative spaces and innovative companies, and to have them come into Lophos not only puts their stamp of approval and that they see the promise in what we're doing, but it also gives us access to this, pool of knowledge that we can build on as we're growing our company. And so we really see that the partnership between 3D and ourselves is beneficial for us both in terms of being able to grow. And we look forward to working together in the future. I think it's going to be an exciting partnership.
I look forward to seeing that, and I think 3D have got really good knowledge in lots of different areas, bioscience, AI, and other things. And obviously, you're the expert, but they can still help for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So why Lophos over any competitor in the space? How do you stand out?
So, Lophos, we really stand out, not only in the natural medicine space, but as well in the pharmaceutical or psychedelic industry as a whole. So, Lophos, in terms of our company being focused on this endangered plant and developing the indoor cultivation protocols to allow it to produce, to mature quicker. We really see that as setting us apart in terms of innovation and capabilities. But we also see, in the psychedelic industry at large, a lot of the runways to revenue are very long. And it's a hard road to walk, especially in this economy. And so for Lophos, having this pathway to revenues that we can feed back into our research, I really see it helping us stand the test of time. And so that's what I think sets us apart the most.
Yeah. And forgive me if I'm wrong, but I believe you're the first company or soon to be first company to make regular sales of psychedelics in Canada.
That's right. We're gearing up right now to release our first batch that we started cultivating in 2020, later this summer. And, over the last year, we've achieved every milestone we set out for ourselves. We're expanding our cultivation. We're moving into our first sales. We've received all the licensing we require from Health Canada, and it's just time to press go. And so it's really an exciting time for us.
Yeah, if you're the first in Canada, you might be the first in other countries as well, because Canada's obviously the hub of this stuff. So very, very interesting. What's the business model? How do you guys make your income and revenue?
So our business model is really centered around the cultivation, research, and sale of natural medicines, particularly peyote. Our revenue streams are really coming through three places. So we have our peyote cultivation and sales, where we cultivate and we sell it, but we're cultivating to a high quality standard under pharmaceutical guidelines, and we're really self-imposing these standards to ensure that our products are tested, that they're safe, and that they're to that standard that a patient may need. We also have our controlled substance distribution through our CSDL, where we're licensed to possess, sell, and transport the controlled substances that are listed on our license, which we've covered. And this really allows us to be able to provide to other licensed entities, to academic institutions, to patients in the SAP program for medical purposes, that type of thing. And then we also have our research and development stream. And so being able to conduct the cutting edge research in this area of natural medicine, and being able to partner or unlock new insights through partnerships in the future, we really see that that as an exciting aspect of our business model as well.
And are there any other applications and treatments that you can see in the future? I think we touched on a few that you're
Yeah,
researching at the moment, but please go ahead.
I think the traditional applications surrounding depression, anxiety, and in both the macrodose, microdose format are definitely in the immediate future. And as we evolve, I really hope to see the formulations in the natural health product vein. I think that there's so much potential for peyote as an ingredient in those formulations. I look forward to not only our own, but to working with other companies that are seeking to do that. Uh, and yeah, I mean, I think that these are exciting things that are in our future.
Definitely, definitely indeed. I'm excited to see how it all evolves in the next few months. What sort of catalysts can we be looking out for?
So I think Lophos, there's a few catalysts that we have in our future. They're centered around kind of our regulatory developments, research milestones, strategic partnerships, and then our revenue growth and potential market expansions. So there's that potential for the regulatory environment to become more and more favorable as we're seeing more and more of the clinical data that's coming out. One of the things that really makes me excited is the MDMA, all of the work that MAPS has done in furthering the clinical trials around MDMA. And MDMA and mescaline are similar. They're both phenylethylamines, and they kind of interact with the brain in a similar way. And so that I really see as a catalyst, kind of outside the Lophos ecosphere, that has potential to affect us as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, linking to that, where do you see the company in 5 years, and perhaps do you see it as like a hub and all these companies that even might be in slightly different spaces or sectors or different substances coming on and joining you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I really see in the next 5 years, Lophos being an innovator in the natural medicines and pharmaceutical space. I hope to see us with a robust portfolio of products in terms of our peyote offerings, and then moving into our research and being able to really identify some interesting opportunities for our company to expand. Working on our research programs, expanding our involvement with other academic institutions, other companies, strategic partnerships, like I mentioned. I really see that evolving over the next 5 years. And, our progress in the regulatory environment. I mean, the work that we've done to date to ensure that Lophos is doing things in the right way, really making sure that we seek all of the licenses in the right way, even with this medicine that carries an exemption in the regulations. I think that will really allow Lophos to be an innovator in how we develop and release our products in the future. And so that's kind of where I see us going in the next 5 years.
Definitely, yeah. Thank you very much for your time. It's been a very good and precise and well answered interview, and people can obviously keep an eye out for your press releases and follow your company as well. The ticker is MESC.
That's right, MESC on the CSE.
Cheers, Claire. Speak soon.
Thank you.